As you can see here, this is my name, and I have two brains. I have two brains because one brain is on the right side, and this is what I do for a job. I work on nano materials. I work on things like a 10,000 smaller than your hair, and even more. And I do all kind of things with them. I look at light, how I interact with them, and so on. And they are structured in a very interesting way and fascinating way. And then I do other things. We can make devices from them and all kind of things. So it's a kind of a, what you call it, grounded in math, grounded in physics, and I teach engineering. So why I'm here? Well, part of the reason is that I do paint, and I have different type of paintings and different materials. I also do ceramics. This is a big seat. You can imagine how big it is. And I do little things too. I was in Peru, and I saw the Nazca line, so I get inspired. I did some other things. And at home, I display them in all kind of shapes. And you could see some element of these looks like a nanowires, but they are really not, and they are made of 3D ceramics. So what is it I'm doing here? I'm not going to talk about any of the above, so relax. No exams. What I'm going to talk about is a project that we work on with a group of people here. It's around mental health in Maipú. Maipú is almost you could say a suburb of Santiago. And we were there during summer, and it was an amazing experience. So this is the story I'm going to tell you about. So there are three people who really, the ones who get me involved in this one here. Claudia Babedilla, she is here, I think. And of course, Doris is the one who get me going with everything I do, I think about. And we teach together, we do things, fun things. And Ben Villa, who is maybe not here. He was here. He was out for a bit, and he'll be back. He's a student. He worked with me for a number of years. He graduated. He had his master's degree about a few months ago. And he is really I'd say he is the locomotive of the activity. So what's the activity? Activity started with this graph here. If you look at it, even if you are not a scientist or engineer or statistician, something is moving up, as you can imagine. Going from 2009 to 2019, there is an increase of about 15% or so. And what it is about a change in depression, or depending how you interpret it, somewhat depression, somewhat even suicide. So that's a very alarming, and you could ask the question, what caused it? So one could claim that suicide is on the rise. And why? And what do we do about it? Okay. So the why is, both questions are things that we are attempting to understand, try to address in some different ways. Now, suicide is a complex system problem. I lived all my life to say this word, and I love to say them. Complex problem is everything you have around you. Everything is complex, and everything is a system. So if you don't believe that, this is a problem. We can talk outside. And I'll corner you, and I get you to believe systems is everywhere. So systems are really very, very important thing to think about, because many times, although I'm a physicist, I'm an engineer, engineers create solutions for problems. Unfortunately, many of these solutions, they end up creating different type of problems. So we get to watch for engineers and make sure that they are doing the right things. And by looking into systems, allows us to understand how to address a problem, how to go about it, and how you can touch the right buttons, to speak. So there are many interacting elements in a complex systems, and interaction here is the problem, frankly. If we can understand the interaction, you can address the system, you can solve it. But 90% of the time, you really cannot understand the interaction, because interaction don't happen instantaneously. They happen in time, and it takes a while to address them, to know them. So like you could have talking about emotion, pressure, homelessness, isolation, lack of sociability, lack of social interactions, no curiosity, fear of unknown, pressure to succeed, and what have you. All of these could be part of the system of suicide that we're talking about, and there are more. There are more that I don't know what they are. But there are graphs, and the graphs sometimes are misleading, but sometimes give you an idea what's going on. If you look at this graph here, This is the number of suicide on one axis, and the other axis is the age of the people who are committing the suicide. And interesting enough, you could see that, at least the three that you see here, mostly white male, and some black male, they all have some increase around age of 20. And then kind of a level off, same percentage, then increase significantly for white male after age of 70. You could speculate why is that, etc. But these are statistics, and you may agree to them, may not, but give you hints. One interesting thing you note here, that the black females have a lower number of suicide attempts, and also they don't have significant rises. So it's just probably because they're busy raising their kids. Now, one thing that we noticed recently is that there is a percentage increase in the younger ages between 12, even younger, all the way up to 14, 15. And that's really alarming. That's very, very alarming and very unusual. And it is something that really consider, typically unusual. There is also an increase around the age of 60s, but also there is a breadth to it. The other one is very narrow age. Okay, so that's what we know today, kind of through numbers, etc. One thing I know, and I think it's correct, is that interactions create networks, and interactions among people can be short range and long range. What I mean by short range is interaction with family, relative, friends. These are short range interactions, meaning in distance and time also very close. Much different if it is long range, things that we meet in a conference every once a year or 2 years. And that's still there is interaction among us, important. But short range interaction are critical for human stability. I believe this is true. I can't prove it to you, but I believe it's true. And there are ways of showing that this is correct. But I don't like, as a physicist, I don't like to make a universal declarations unless you really truly test it over the years and so on, and we don't have these in social issues. So what we decided to do, and this came really from Claudia, basically, she said, we can really go and do some study in a region where she knows it very well and she has connections, and that's in Maipú. And we met with so this is now taking you back to August, this past August, and we met with the mayor there. Very, very progressive guy, very energetic. This is the kind of guy, that he will become a president one day if he wasn't killed. That's a joke, okay. I have to announce my jokes, okay, so because I'm very dry. So we also went to a place, they deal with mental health. It's a small hospital. We talk to people there. We talk with nurses, talk with individuals. So start trying to understand, get some data, get yourself like what in this pool. We also were lucky to find there are people on the grounds who can really help us. Marcella, in particular, she is part of Dr. Klaas, and she's been extremely, extremely helpful there. She's not a Chilean, but she lives there, and she's been living there for a while, and she was extremely helpful moving things around. Also, a woman who is on the ground, Susanna Qualenti, she also helped quite a bit. And so this is the starting day, kind of, okay? So now you've landed, now you're starting to think that, okay, I don't speak Spanish, so that's even worse because I'm just raising my head right and left. And fortunately, I have Ben with me, and Ben speaks Spanish, so I always bend my head towards him and he translates. And that's been really amazing. So second thing we did is we start to meet with people. And look at these, and you really need to look very carefully when you look at any of these pictures. I'm going to show you a lot of pictures. And what you see here, right, most of them are women. Most of them are sitting somewhat in a way that they are really tight in their seats. They are not smiling, interacting, etc. So we sat there and we listened. And basically what we said, why are we here? What's going on? What's happening? And they were telling us. The stories makes you really very, very sad. Every one of those women had a trauma of some sort. Every one of them had an incredible stresses that At least for me, I couldn't deal with something like this. So we're sitting there listening. Then we went somewhere else. We also sat there listening. So basically, probably over 3, 4, maybe 4 days, 5 days, we met with close to maybe 90, 100 people. And most of the time, like you're doing now, you're sitting listening and taking notes. We weren't doing much. But it was very instructive because we can see what goes on and how they're thinking about it. And you could see the ages here started to look a little younger. There are some younger women here, and they were very active, very expressive. This was a very formidable meeting, I would say, because we're sitting here. Let me see. We're sitting here, and around us, almost a circle of people, and they're telling us again their issues, what goes on, and so on. And Doris was sitting there, and she had the courage to push me and says, let's do something. And I was saying, well, what can you do? I mean, nothing we can do. She said, well, trust me, we can do something. So we did. And what was it? It's very simple. We said to the people, you have something you're unhappy about. Let's choose 3 ideas, 4 issues, and let's act them. Let's go out and act them. So I was asked to become the poor husband, the bad husband. So I'm the abuser, and you try to pretend. Sometimes it works really well. A joke. Okay, I want to see if everybody's alive. So anyway, so we go there and we start so-called acting. Now, I have never acted much really in my life. I teach, but that's about it. And that's kind of form of acting, to tell you the truth. But it's very different because I'm imagining myself in that situation. Someone abusing his wife in a very, very bad way. And the woman who was being abused, she was there. She's the one. She's live. This is not fiction. And there are other people around the room who are working with us and acting with us. So I'll show you some pictures. So this is where this woman is confronted. Anyway, I'm not going to say the story. So this is part of the acting. And you could see what's happening here. The 2 women are talking to each other. Some are not. And here, look at this one here. Look carefully at what's happening. Ben is talking with another woman, and they're laughing and joking, maybe. Maybe they're thinking together. This woman here, trust me, she was not smiling even when we started. And she has really, really very stressful life. Another one there, a younger woman, kind of smiling, laughing. And this is all took place within a couple of hours. So it's not like the situation is laughable, not at all. But what happened is the interaction started to ease the stresses that they have, and they were able now to talk to each other. That's the ending, we stood there, all of us smiling, and they're shouting and everything. Looks like we did something. Later we came back, and we talked with them. And what they said is they promised each other that they will meet again, and they will talk again. So, and this is an event where I would say, what we did is really facilitate interactions. Arts here facilitated interactions. It didn't mitigate, it didn't solve, it facilitated interactions. Interactions, in my opinion, will help making a change in their lives. This is a good picture. This picture of a child, he happened to come with his mother. His mother is a teacher. I think he's about 10 years old or so. And he did something amazing, absolutely amazing. So I took a picture with him, and I'm going to show you what he did. He drew this one, and he had his name on top. Nobody asked him to do anything. He was just bored, and he was observing us, seeing what we're doing. What it is we're sitting in a circle, and he drew us sitting in a circle. We're sitting, trying to figure out some problems. And he said to us, together we can solve these problems. 10 years old. It was really emotionally charged feeling about it. And I don't speak Spanish, I can read it, but there are words like a problemata and so on, and he tells you what you can do together. Here's a child feeling the energy of the room, feeling that this is going to be powerful. And indeed, a lot of the people who are there promise each other to work together, to talk to each other. Now, when I'm talking about people who are stressed, I'm not talking about people who are, let me say, require chemical treatment. Some of them do take chemical treatment when they really don't need it. But that's how it's been done, prescribed chemical treatment. Many of those people are people who are not in need of this treatment, but they need the emotional connection, they need the support system, and they don't have it. And there are many different types of abuses. But at the end, like today Professor Gunn mentioned, we need the sociability, we need the connection among each other as human beings. Moving forward, I want to read this thing for you. It says, the theater experience in Maipú was transformative and surprising. In just few hours, probably less than 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours, despite meeting the group of elder men and women in Maipú so briefly, indeed it was, and despite not speaking the same oral language, each participant was able to express their pain, losses, traumas with such openness and honesty. Second thing is, says, the power of acting reality in fiction was healing, was the magic touching every soul and blessing them with peace and love. The power of art was astonishing. Indeed, it was. Perhaps the real challenge is simple. Perhaps it will sound naive, and healing of our society's wound is connected to the way that we treat each other, the way that we see to each other is perhaps just about caring for each other, and art is the medium, like an invisible healing power. Beautiful words. And this came really from the heart. It came, this is not my words. It came without, I'm going to disclose who did that, who said that, and that's Claudia. So, in my mind, is the name of the change is art. And it's not art in the sense of just the visual aesthetics. It's really art what comes out of it, what causes us to socialize around it. So in my opinion, art making something new. Something that surprises and engages groups of people to reflect together. When you see a painting, you rarely fight with the next person. You rarely say anything negative. Even if you don't like it, you say, I don't know, this color right, or this is too abstract to me, or something. But there is no tension engaged. It's the contrary. What happens is you end up talking together, you end up trying to understand what goes there. And because you are not the one who did the painting, your judgment is not because of the ownership, not because of it comes from your heart, it comes from your feelings. So thinking as an artist, the aesthetic dimension of change is a condition for confronting social, economic, ethical, and political changes. I truly believe that. I do practice art, I do art quite a bit, and I don't do it in the conscious that I'm talking about here to you, but it is. And many times people, when we sit together, whether in a painting studio or sitting in a studio making pottery, there's a lot of camaraderie, there's a lot of helping each other, bringing together. And people forget that even famous painters work together in studios. They didn't work everyone in isolation. You see the movement of paintings in Europe, and even United States. This movement had people working together, thinking together, and making things together. So in my mind is art informed research provides a set of tools, processes that are usually different from those traditionally employed in social science research. And I mean really different. I'm not a social scientist, and I'm not qualified to say a word about social science, but that's the feeling I have, and I see a difference. I see significant difference. That's not to say social science is not important. It's absolutely important because we measure things through it. We can learn a lot from it. Second is these processes, tools are based on particular epistemological and ontological assumptions and useful in investigating particular questions, dilemmas, experiences, and issues. The third point I want to say is that different research questions require different methodologies. You can't use paintbrush. Okay, let's do theaters, let's do music. You really have to be thinking very, very carefully about the system you're dealing with and figure out where are the point of interventions. Not an easy thing. So, because the word technologies and social kind of get together nicely for me, it's for the last few years I've been looking into this question around social technologies. I work with elderlies, technologies for the elderlies, and we get some sponsorship, so we had some reasonable group of people. But to me, it's a way of using human, intellectual, and engineering and digital resources in order to influence social processes. The word here, the important word here is everyone and. It has to be an interdisciplinary approach to any of these things. It can't be only economic, only social, only physics, only engineering. And it's really quite a feat to teach engineers to think this way. I teach several courses, two. But I teach these courses to really try to get the students to move away from the concept of let's make something. Before you make it, tell me why you're making it. And I ask 4 or 5 times why. And eventually, they come to something that's of interest. I'm teaching a course right now, very technical course on what's called MEMS. And the first thing they have to do is tell me what they are making and why they're making it. And if it has no social context, don't do it. You'll get 0. Your grade will be horrible. And that focuses into looking at the human as an entity that requires caring, requires some attention, not only just making a device. We teach design. In my opinion, design has fundamental faults in it. Because design in principle, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this point here, but design in principle is a fantastic process. It takes any condition, any poor condition to a better condition. So what do you need better than that? But the methodologies are driven by commercialization, which I reject. Commercialization should be an outcome, not an objective. And that's very difficult to drive. So, in my mind, the social technology approach is that this technology is complemented by social science findings and social theories. We went out, the first thing we did is we're asking the people what's happening, what's going on. Not just coming, okay, I have a drug for you, or I have the solution for you. It doesn't work. So the question is, we are facing right now is, how can we prevent the emergence of severe mental health issues using social technologies? We are not treating. We are not qualified to treat. What we can do is mitigation. We can do prevention. And I think we can, and we will. So one of the things that took place very quickly is that we created what we call a coalition. And this work brought companies, brought even news media, and was really driven by one person here, Claudia, have done tremendous work in getting this group together and getting them to talk to each other and learn how to think together. And we started the coalition building. You could see here the mayor with us, and we started working things. And we have steps that we want to do, and we are moving slowly through these steps. So, building coalition is one, gathering data, creating hypotheses. We do system analysis. We started putting a system map. I'm almost very familiar with system maps, but this is a very, very challenging problem. And we'll put it together. So we're going to hopefully we'll have to find a way to do interventions and policy recommendations. So you could think about participating arts with so-called bands, excursions, murals, local art, whatever. This could be useful, maybe not. We don't know. But like today, Professor Gunn was saying, unless you act on something, you don't learn it. We have to put things together. We have to try something and see the outcomes, and hopefully we can make changes quickly. So we collect data, we did questionnaires, we put hypotheses, and I'm going to stop there. So thank you for being here.